really speculative.
She overdoes the hand movements, the gesticulating as it's called. Directors often tell actors to talk with their hands, but sometimes it just looks so fake and forced. Then Scully tells them, "We are all going to be exposed."
You are witnessing what may be the advent of a global contagion.
So then Einstein is arguing with Scully.
Well, I think you're wrong.
And she points out that even if something was added to our DNA with the smallpox vaccine, in order to collapse our immune systems, you would actually need to remove something from the DNA, not add something. Scully agrees that it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
But then she gets a call from Agent Monica Reyes, who was one of the characters who became a regular after David Duchovny left the show back in Season 8. Reyes tells Scully that there is a virus. It's known to the evil conspirators who cooked it up as the Spartan virus, and it will wipe out most of the population. The only survivors will be those who've been given alien DNA to make them immune. Reyes confirms that Scully does have the alien DNA and will be immune. Then we get some more Tad O'Malley reports about hospitals being overrun and temporary shelters filling up. Remind you of anything?
Of hospitals being overrun and temporary shelters filling up. And flooding our city hospitals.
So Scully goes back to the hospital where the nurse gets to have another annoying moment.
We don't know what to do.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Are we all just gonna get sick?
I love the way she seems to think Scully has all the answers. So Scully gets back to Agent Einstein and says, "Oh, I'm glad I found you. I thought maybe you'd left." And Einstein replies, "I'd be afraid to leave. It's gone from bad to worse out there." Remind you of anything? Then Einstein says, "The Center for Disease Control confirms massive contagions. They're at a loss to contain them. I'm going to call the WHO next." Remind you of anything? So Scully and Einstein get working on a cure. Tad O'Malley reports people are dying and that microwave radiation is being used as a trigger. He recommends people stay at home. Remind you of anything? So Scully ends up going out with some of the cure she's cooked up to try and find Mulder, and she sees this guy pulling a street sign out of the sidewalk and smashing a storefront window with it. Remind you of anything? It's a totally ridiculous scene. First of all, how did he get this thing? She doesn't seem to notice this at all, but as soon as he breaks the window, she runs over and says, "Stop it, please!" Of course, this guy smashing the window just stops when she says this. I guess he knows she's a main character, and she says, "Please, everybody, get to the hospital. Help is on the way, I promise. Just get to the hospital." So she single-handedly stops a riot. But notice how we see people in public wearing masks and covering their faces to prevent getting the virus? Remind you of anything? I mean, just the fact that there's a riot, it doesn't even really make sense in the episode. There's no real reason for people to be smashing storefront windows. But that's what happens. So, make of it what you will. So it's just kind of interesting. Why did they decide to include this little riot scene in this episode? So make of this what you will, guys. But here, I feel like I also have to point out that The X-Files had a short-lived spin-off show called The Lone Gunman, which focused on 3 supporting characters who investigated the same kind of things Mulder did, but they were underground journalists instead of FBI agents. In their first episode, they uncover a government plot to crash a passenger plane into the World Trade Center by remote control and blame it on anti-American terrorists in order to start a war. I know, that has nothing to do with anything, but I felt like I would be remiss not to mention